You might have noticed a little problem here. If I log in with my user and then I refresh the page, I am logged out, or it looks like I'm logged out. I haven't actually determined whether the user is currently logged in or not. So that's why my user state is initialized to null. I don't try to initialize it to anything other than null. So what I need to do is go ask my auth provider, hey, is this user currently logged in? And if they are, then I'll go ahead and show them the authenticated side of my app and not require that they log in every single time they open a tab with my app. To do this, I need to make a client request to my backend to get my user's information. And lucky for me, the backend developers created a special endpoint for me to call. So I'm going to make a function here. It's an async function called getUser. And here we'll just initialize the user to null. And then we'll get the token from await auth get token. And if we have a token, then we know the user is authenticated and we just need to go get the user's information. So I'll reassign user to await client me, and then we want to pass the token and have that be an authenticated request, and then we'll return the user. Now, of course, we're going to need to import the client, so let's do that. Import client from utils API client, and then we need to enhance the client to accept this token and make our request authenticated. So let's go ahead and take a quick break and do that. We're going to take this custom config and I'm going to destructure that, take the rest of the properties of this object, just do a simple refactor there, and then I'm going to take the token and we'll come down here and say headers, authorization, and if we have a token, then that should be bearer token. Otherwise, we'll just leave this as undefined. Great, but now if the user of client passes headers, then we're going to get those overridden. So let's pluck off the headers. We'll call this custom headers. And now those won't get overridden, and we'll just pass those along as part of this headers object. So we're merging all of this configuration together. Sweet, so now our client supports authenticated requests. Let's go back here and use this getUser in our app. So as soon as it mounts, we want to call this getUser to determine whether or not the user is currently logged in and set the user's information if they are. So here we'll say React use effect. We'll call getUser, and then with that user, we'll call set user with the user we get back, whether that user be null because we had no token, or what we get back from our client API call, which will be the user with their information. And we only want to do this on mount, so we're going to pass a dependency array, and because none of the things in here can change between renders, we're going to leave that empty. Great, so we save this, let's come over here, and boom, we're logged in, awesome. Let's log out and log in again. Hello, 1, 2, 3, we log in, and there we are. We refresh, and there we are again. Let's take a look at our network calls here. If I refresh, I'm going to see that me request right there. We get the user with the ID, token, and a username. And there's something kind of fishy going on right here. And that is you don't see the user's information right there. So let's figure out what's going on there. Let's console.log the user right here. And oh, there it is. It's it's an object that has a user property on it. Okay, so what we need to do is I'm going to call this data, and then we'll assign user to data.user. There we go. That should fix it up. Now let's come back over here. There we go. Hello. So in review, what we've done here is we created a function called getUser that will try to get the user's token, and if they're currently logged in, then we'll get a token back. We can make a request to our backend to get the user's information, like their username, and then we assign that user property from the data we get back to the user and return that. And then as soon as our app is mounted, we make that request, and when that resolves, then we'll assign our user state to the user that we get from that getUser function, and that way the user doesn't have to log in every time they reach our app. To make this getUser function work, we had to add the functionality for our client request to be authenticated. So we had to pass this token. To do that, we accepted that token, destructured off of the custom config that they're providing, and we attached an authorization header to our configuration. If the token exists, then we'll set it to bearer token, otherwise it's undefined. And we also destructured the headers so that the developer can provide custom headers, and we can merge all of that together quite nicely before we pass it along to window.fetch.